Hi there, and welcome to this week's episode of the Australian Small Business Show. Matt, how are you?
I'm great, Christy Lee. How are you today?
I'm good. I'm busy though, because at the time of recording, I'm about to head off and meet up with my mastermind group.
Yeah, pretty fancy location too.
A little bit of a fancy location. We're off to Uluru, which
Nice.
I've never been before. You've been, and it's rained both times you've been there.
I've
And
I've
actually, there's
been
rain predicted this
I've been
week.
to Ayers Rock twice, and both times I haven't seen the top of the rock.
Right. Well, I'm hopeful, although it's a pretty packed schedule. So I'm going to be in masterminding for most of the time I'm there. But what we thought we'd talk about today is exactly that, how to maximize your results and time when you attend these kind of events. And Mastermind's a bit of an unusual one, but whether it's a conference or a training or a networking event, for me, my time is increasingly and has increasingly over the last years become the most valuable asset that I've got. So I am very selective about attending these things. But for some industries, like accounting, you've got to attend a lot of these things.
Well, yeah, CPDs. It's really annoying because you as you said, we don't have time when we're running our businesses yet. To be a CPA or a CA or a tax agent or anything like that, you've got to do a certain amount of hours per year.
Or
Um,
an allied health professional. Like there's a whole
yep.
stack of industries and professions that that applies to.
Yeah, so from my perspective, it's always been a case of because of that, it's forced. So
Hmm.
you tend not to pick events that are of value in terms of learning. You tend
Mm.
to pick events, how many CPD hours is that going to get me for the cost, for example. So I look at training events probably a little bit differently than say
Yeah.
somebody that's just going there to learn stuff. I always look at it as a networking opportunity.
Yeah. And I think some industries have really capitalized on this, obligation to get your CPD points. And if CPD is a term you're not familiar with, listeners, it's certified professional development. And some industries, in order to keep your accreditation as an allied health professional, as a strata property manager, as a whole range of things, you need to be doing ongoing training. And some professions put a specific number of hours on that a year. And I've seen
Yep.
professions absolutely capitalize on that and put on some real expensive conferences so
Yep.
you can max out your CPD by only attending that conference. And it's convenient when it's forced on you. But like you've just said, it's not always the best use of your time or the best quality education or even the best quality rooms to be in, I don't think.
No, and yeah, look, I used to do a lot. I don't do them much anymore, but I used to
Mm,
do. I try to get my CPD now um, online where I can.
yeah.
So, and probably a lot of people listening are probably the same. But the face-to-face are coming back. I know you do what yours 2 or 3 times a year. You do face-to-face with this group.
Mastermind's been, well, we meet 4 times a year. It's been three in person, one online for a while, but this year it's four in person. But Mastermind's a very different thing to obligatory CPD training. It's a room you have to
Yeah,
very much choose to be in. It's an investment in yourself and your business. And I think any mastermind that you're a part of is a very special place to be personally, professionally, I guess.
yeah. So how do you get the most out of it then? So let's talk about first of all how to select. So when you say mastermind, you've selected mastermind as being your learning
Hmm.
place. Um, so how do you choose a conference or a training program or something? What's the best way to approach it?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. I think you want to be really clear about why you're attending. Like you're going to swap time and probably a fair bit of money to be in any kind of training or event or conference. What are you wanting to get out of it? I never understood when I was a young recruiter why I was being sent off to recruitment conferences for a day to hang out with other young recruiters. There was no discussions about, oh, have you tried this strategy? Like there was no good
Yeah.
education piece there. There might have been some good speakers, but I could never understand what I was going to learn in that room. And I think there is a real um, misconception to turning up in a room that's full of your peers and that being the most valuable use of your time, because I think we learn most from people that know things that we don't already know. So I think being really clear about what you want to get out of it, like, is it education? Do you want to learn a new skill or develop your skills further, or hear from a particular speaker or on a particular topic? It's also, I think, being about really clear about, okay, well, how much am I willing to invest both in time and money to get that result? And
Yeah.
what's the best way to do that? Like, as you said, there's plenty of online trainings, and I have really leaned into online since very early in my business because I had young kids. Like, I couldn't run off to Sydney for a luncheon or, go and attend a speaking event. I had to find online options, and it was perfect for that season. And I'm not someone that loves in-person networking. In fact, I hate it.
No.
So if I could avoid that, absolutely, I would.
So I think you've got to set a goal. Like you got to
Yeah.
know exactly what you want. And look, I think the best value for me is trying to find an event that combines everything. So you're going to get some learning. You're going to tick off the box. I've got my CPD. There's a skill I want to learn more about AI, for example. So
Mhm.
there's a speaker doing that I'm interested in. There's also the opportunity to grow your business. So
Yep.
and B2B, I guess for me, it's easier, I think, than I say a B2C. If you're selling direct
Yep.
to a customer, it'd be more difficult to find out where those customers are, and maybe tougher to get the training you need to run your business at the same time as selling to a customer. But if you've got a B2B business, I think it's a little bit easier. Um, you know, particularly if you've got a business that's in a wholesale space, when you go, your colleagues for part of it are potential clients as well.
Yeah, yeah, there are definitely environments and industries where it is simpler to combine everything in one. I think that is more challenging, certainly for B2C, but also for other B2B sectors. It can be a little challenging. So you may not get everything out of being in the one place. So what is the objective? Is it learning? Is it connecting? I know a lot of my clients will attend events with others in their industry, but often others that are much bigger than them and doing
Yep.
things very differently. So sort of putting yourself in rooms with people that are a couple of steps ahead of you can be a
Yeah,
really
like
smart move.
potential mentors.
Potential mentors, but also just ideas that you don't think, like, we get so in the weeds running our business.
Yeah.
We don't think that there are other ways to do things, or, the contradiction to that is we've been told that this is the only way to set up this kind of business and this is how those businesses are run. Accounting and recruitment are great examples. But there are, of course, a million other ways you could do business, but until you get out of your little bubble, you might not know that.
Yeah, that's right. And that leads me to probably another point before you're choosing your conference or anything like that. You've got to keep in mind you've got to still run your business as
Yeah.
well. So,
Yeah.
you can't be picking 2 weeks in Las Vegas. Um,
I've got a few
and,
clients that do that.
and expect to, so you've got to plan ahead. That's my point, is that if you're picking out your training and your conference options,
Mm.
then, am I going to be able to still, get through my emails whilst I'm at that conference, for example, if you need to?
Yeah, and I think that the challenge with that, and this is something I've struggled with a lot, is being able to put your out of office email on, delegate what you need to your team so that you can actually pay attention and be present. Because I've done many of these kind of trainings or meetings where I've also been checking my email or taking calls constantly, and you kind of wasting your time being there if you're not giving it your full attention. So it is crafting, that time out where you can actually be present, paying attention, ready to, because the conversations you often have in the breaks at these things are equally as valuable, sometimes even more valuable than the conversations or the presentation you might be watching. But if you're spending all of your breaks tucked into a corner checking your email and making calls, you're going to lose that opportunity too. So kind of creating enough space that you can be present. And that's why early in my business, it was 1 hour lunchtime online things that I was doing because that's the
Yeah.
space I could create. Like, I don't think it's easy to get 2 days out of your office for a lot of us. So um, don't feel that that's what you need to do. Like, it doesn't have to be a multi-day event. It could be a 2 hour online thing, and just make the space for it.
Yeah, that's right. And if you don't make the space for it, then you really it's out of your control as to whether
Yep.
that event you go to is going to be successful or not. So, if you haven't put out of office on and your clients don't know that you're not available at that day, there might be a crisis.
Yep.
And
Yeah. And there always is.
you've got no choice than to manage that crisis. Um, yeah, so I think it's really important to understand that you need those things in place before you can, head off and have that clear headspace to be able to either learn or
Mm.
to grow your business.
Yeah. And I think not doing these things is a real problem for business. Like I know for me, there were seasons when I was really good at attending regularly certain things and, get whether or not I realized it in the moment, getting value from those things. And there have definitely been seasons and years at a time where I've just been so in the weeds and just putting out fires all day that that was kind of the first thing to go, my investment in my own sort of personal and professional development. And I remember at one point sitting there thinking, why isn't business, humming like it used to? What's going on? And what I realized was I'd stopped doing these kind of activities. And it was kind of a bit of a wake up call for me that this is actually a priority that I need to make happen in my business.
Yeah, because the opportunities that come from these events tend to be slow burning.
Oh,
So
of course. Yeah, you don't go
if
into these
if you
events.
if you're not
Yeah.
going to them this year, then perhaps the benefits you would have got in 2027, 2028 aren't going to
Mm,
happen. So
yeah,
it's
in
like any
some
kind of
cases.
marketing. Once you stop that, it's difficult to
Yeah, and I
keep moving
think
forward.
I've certainly noticed that trend a lot lately that the people joining a lot of the groups that I'm in, there's this much more transactional approach. I find it really icky. And it means I don't attend as many things with those groups that, as I used to. I always, like always from the beginning, looked at any of these things as education first. Like I never ever went into certainly an education kind of content piece with any expectation that that was about building business. A networking event is, of course, a very different kettle of fish. But I'm seeing a lot of people turn up, to things that are education and training based and trying to do business on their
Yeah, I
first
think
interaction. And it really puts me off.
I think that's due to the fact that running these events is getting quite expensive too. So
Mm.
you've got to rely on that sponsorship. So the expectation is those sponsors get to be in the face of everyone.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's not even the sponsor. Oh, I know you say that in your world, but just the people that join these things with this expectation that I'm going to walk out with three new clients in the end of the
Yeah.
first call. Yeah, it's not how I approach them personally. But yeah, it's about being clear about what you want to get out of it. Like what's the objective? Finding the thing that's going to deliver that for you in a format that some people love face to face. So you should find face to face. Some people are much happier online. Do that. Just find the format that you are going to attend, be present for, and that's going to give you the value that you're looking for the investment that you're making.
Yeah. As I said before, I approach them for a combo of reasons. So it's important to always have a real plan too. So if it's a two or 3 day event and there's a schedule, you get the schedule out and you look at the learnings that you want to get from those 2 or 3 days, and you make sure you go and see them. And then you also have a plan for how you want to approach the networking part of it. So whether you're going to try and meet as many people as you can, or you want to target, is there 3 or 4 people that you really need to speak to at length during those to make an impression? So I always approach them like that.
Yeah, I think that's the big corporate conference structure. And I don't attend a lot of those, you do more so, but that is the structure. Usually you might have multiple speakers at different rooms and stages, and you want to be really, you do have to be strategic because you will miss out otherwise.
Yep.
But they are probably my least favorite type of event to attend. That sounds like my
Well,
worst
I think that
nightmare.
also applies to smaller groups too. You might have, a group of 20 people that you spend a couple of days with, or if it's just a couple of hours with, you still have to have a plan in place as to, to get value out of these investments. I think you can't go in and just hope that somebody's going to turn to you and say, "Hey, what do you do?" I think you've got
Mm,
to have a plan in place, even if it is a small group of people that you do. And we've done a lot of episodes on the elevator pitch and being able to describe what you do. I think at the very least you need to be able to articulate exactly why you're there to somebody,
mm.
and to create relationships and things like that. If that's your goal.
If that's the goal, yeah. And if it's a brand new group of people, of course, you want to be understanding who's in the room and what they do and um, you know, what opportunities might be available there, potentially to do business together. But yeah, it does depend on the room you're going into, I think. I'm probably a little bit less strategic. I'm interested to see what comes out of things rather than
Yep.
going in with a plan. But there are certainly spaces where that's important.
Well, okay then. So from that perspective, what happens after you leave a conference? What do you do over, say, the next 2 or 3 days when you get home? from this one? What's the approach?
Well, look, I think the general rule for me when I was doing, trade show type conferences, which I did for a period in business, is you would follow up with all those people. Like the mastermind I go to is a very different thing. We all know each other really well. It's not a networking event. But if it was a, trade show type conference and I'm out there meeting people, or we had a stand and we were collecting details, step one is to follow up with every single person that I connected with. And whether, email addresses were collected or back in the day, business cards were collected, you've got to have a follow-up plan with those new connections, at least to say thanks for stopping and saying hi, and here's what we do. Or if you'd like to sign up for our email, for our newsletter, here's how you do that. So
Yeah.
definitely have a follow-up plan if you're going to one of those conference or trade show type things where you're going to be meeting new people. The worst thing you can do is not follow up, I think.
Yeah. And also with the learnings too, I think what I like to do is come back and go, right, it could have been a conversation with another business owner
Mm,
where, you've learned something that you didn't know. So I always come back to the business and go, well, what did I learn from that, and how can I apply it to my business?
yeah,
Yeah.
actually, that's a good point because that can be tricky. So I've certainly found I've gone to events, I've learnt heaps. I've been sitting there taking all these notes, thinking, "Oh my God, this is amazing! I could definitely do this or use that or implement that." And I get back and it's just business as usual and
Yeah.
chaos and craziness. And then I realize 3 months later I never implemented that thing. And I see clients do that all the time when they're sending their team off on training, and they
Yeah.
think that sending them on this one expensive big training day is going to solve all their problems. And I tell them it's not, because they're not going to come back and implement it if you don't give them the structure to do that.
Yeah, you've got to have that space. So when you're looking at, taking the time away from your business, you've also got to give yourself some time afterwards to get the proper value out of it. And
Yeah.
that could be, as you said, following up leads you got from the conference, but also implementing. And I imagine if you're sending a team away, you're going to have some kind of day or half a day where they can bring
Yeah.
back their stories,
Yeah.
and
And debrief.
vice versa. If you're the business owner going away to a conference, you want to come back and you want to pass those learnings onto your team as well.
Yeah. Well, I've already given my team the heads up. We had a team meeting last week and I let them know where I was going this week. And I knew that I would know kind of what we're focusing on ahead of going in. And I messaged them this morning. I said, here's going to be the focus. This is what we're going to be looking at. I expect when I come back, we'll be looking at X, Y, and Z. So that they kind of know, okay, this is coming. We might be making some changes to a few things here. And then I'll bring back those learnings when I return, and let them know how we can use those learnings. So it's really important, hard to do. Like I know some of my mastermind friends actually schedule, some of them stay, wherever we are staying
Yep.
days after, or go and stay together in like a share house for days after, purely to give themselves space to implement. And
And get all that value.
yeah, exactly. And those people that do that, I know, are really implementing the learnings like every single time.
Awesome. So you're looking forward to your little trip?
Yep, I've just got a bit of work to do. Got to get all the work done, got to get packed, but I'm sure when I get there, it's going to be
And it's gonna
amazing.
be it's gonna be a bit cold too.
It's going to be cold, and I really don't love the cold, but it'll be amazing.
Awesome.
All right, thanks, Matt.
Thanks, Christy.